What's up, Dragon Brood? Today we're taking a look at an elf deck, and one of the things we've been saying about elves for most of the last standard is they were missing just a little bit of something and they didn't have quite the right parts, and maybe now we got just enough that can help us get where we want to go. I don't know if that's totally true, but we did get a couple of new parts that helps us change the deck just a little bit. Now, is it enough? We'll see. But the thing about this deck we're going to be doing is we're just going to go pedal to the metal, no defense, and see if it can get us there. Let's go take a look at it. If you're looking for quality binders, sleeves, dice, deck boxes, or other supplies, be sure to check out Ultrapro's Smoke Gray collection this month over at shop.ultrapro.com/PowrDragn and use promo code PowrDragn to save 5%. Okay, so like I was saying, this is a deck that actually is going to be fairly easy to build because we're not using a ton of new cards. We have just a handful of them that are going to kind of help push us to the finish line, and we're going to be leaning on old cards to get us there. Now, the fun part I will say about this is that since we're not going really on any defensive cards, our whole goal is just, can we go bigger while we're going wider? And that's usually not easy for a deck to do, but this version might be able to pull it off. So let's hop right in and see what we've got working with. So what we got here to work with. Gosh dang, I know how to talk, I promise. So we've got 4 Jaspera Sentinel, which is an elf. I think sometimes that goes forgotten. It does have reach, which is also very nice because we're in a world where people are probably going to be playing some type of angels and whatnot. But what I do like about it is it can get us any color, especially when we have like tokens coming into play and we're going to be trying to roll out multiple things. So this is actually really, really good for us. So I like what that's going to be doing. Now, an interesting thing is there's another card we wanted to add white for, but when doing so, kind of came across the fact that Monk of the Open Hand happens to be white. So yeah, and the Monk of the Open Hand happens to also be an elf. Not a thing that's really been relevant. Most of the time when you see it, it's in some variation of white aggro decks. But here it actually makes a lot of sense. Since we're going to have Jaspera Sentinel helping us cast stuff more frequently, we also have several 1-drop things we can draw. We have things to get extra creature or extra cards in our hands. So we probably could grow this fairly steady if we played it on turn 1. But we'll see what it turns into with everything going on around it. Now, we do have Forge Drew Blightblade, and we did play this in previous versions of Elves, and I actually don't mind it. I'm not a fan, but it is an elf and has Death Touch, so with us not playing a lot of removal, it can actually double as removal, or at least a hindrance to keep your opponent from attacking with the creature, so we don't hate that at all. So we are playing a full set of those, and of course, we're going to be playing a full set of Elvish Warmaster, 2 mana, 2/2. When you have another elf enter the battlefield, it creates a 1/1 elf warrior. Sorry about that. And this only happens once a turn, but that's totally okay. The other good part about the War Master is that you can pay 7, all your creatures get +2/+2 in Death Touch. Usually when that happens, we often have 6 or 7 things and they're all attacking as 3/3 or bigger, plus they have Death Touch, and that comes very, very close to ending the game on its own. Now, the first new card on the list, actually, that we're adding is a couple copies of Gala Greeters. It's a colorless and a green for a 1/1. Also happens to be an elf druid, and this is probably, I don't know, is this the 3rd list we posted with this in it? Depends on the order these go up. But either way, I know I have this in 3 decks already, and the card's just pretty versatile and neat. But the way it works here is when another elf or another creature enters the battlefield, it will happen to be an elf, but when another creature enters the battlefield, you choose one of the following 3 that has not been chosen this turn. You can put a +1/+1 counter on Gala Greeters, you can create a treasure token tapped, or you can gain 2 life. Now, the interesting thing about this is if you have a War Master out, pretty much every turn you're going to get to choose +1/+1 and maybe make a treasure, which then ramps up your ability to play other things, which is pretty sweet. So they kind of really play off each other very well, and we like that a lot. Moving on to other cards, though, one of the other main reasons to play white is Rally the Ranks. And what's funny is we had Rally the Ranks in a old version of Elves, like, man, is it nearly a year ago now, it feels like? But yeah, and then we tried other versions without white, and ultimately the Rally the Ranks is very good, and for a couple of reasons. One, it can put you just out of range of something like a Meat Hook Massacre early, which is a big deal, because that lets you get another attack or 2 in. Also, if your creatures have already grown, in this case, like Monk of the Open Hand or Galagreeters or whatever, just getting an extra +1 or +2 on that combat step can be enough to put your opponent in a bad blocking situation, or even put them in a bad attacking situation because your creatures might just be big enough they can't get around them. We're also going to try out 3 Skimfar Avenger, 2 mana, 3/1. Whenever another non-token elf dies, you get to draw a card. You do lose 1 life. However, now the loss of life doesn't feel as bad since we have something like Galagreeters, because we can just alternate and gain 2 life if we feel it's necessary. We're playing 3 Herald, King of Skimfar, which is a 3 mana, 3/2. It has Menace, which we really like again when we're able to pump our creatures. Anything that has Menace is super nice. He lets you look at the top cards of your library. If it's an elf or a warrior or a Tyvar, it'll be an elf or a warrior. We can put it into our hand, which is actually pretty nice. And then we're playing a couple copies, of 3 to be exact, of Canopy Tactician. And the idea is between the Rally the Ranks and the Canopy Tacticians, we can grow the board big enough that we can kind of keep the opponents off our butt for a while and win the creature combats and hopefully not lose to the meat hook maskers of the world. But to that end, sometimes you're just still going to get your board swept, so you do need stuff like Skimfar Avenger help you draw cards and get caught up, or even something like Herald to put creatures back in your hand. But one of the other new cards that we actually get to play with happens to also be an elf druid to be exact, and that's Fleetfoot Dancer. It's 4 mana, so a colorless, a red, a green, and a white for a 4/4 that has trample, haste, and lifelink. This is an amazing card to have after a sweeper. It seems very small, but imagine if we already even have a Rally the Ranks out, and you're getting to play this after your opponents wipe the board out, smash them for 5, and you get to gain life off of it, and now they have to immediately deal with it, right? While you may have other options still in hand. So this card's going to be very good in this list. Could even be a finisher off the top a couple times. So we're going to be really excited to play that. And then we have Herald Unites the Elves. It's a 2 colorless black-green saga. Chapter 1, I almost said level 1, but chapter 1, you get to mill 3 cards, and then you put an elf or a Tyvar from your graveyard into your hand. So a good way to kind of recover or just make sure you have stuff for the long haul. Kind of like an indirect way to draw cards. And then you get to put a +1/+1 on each creature you control, so it's a way to just grow your whole board. And then whenever you attack on the final chapter, you get to give a creature -1/-1 for each attacking creature you control. So yeah, a lot of times this is a game ender too in creature fights because you pick off 1 or 2 things, you shrink some other stuff to where you don't lose what you are worried about in combat, and then the rest just get through. So yeah, I think this should actually be pretty good for us. Of course, our lands are a lot of new lands, pathways, multi-lands. So we are playing a secluded courtyard because we're playing 30 creatures and they all happen to be elves. It's pretty easy to just choose elves and then we can just get any color mana from it. The only thing we would have trouble casting potentially would be something like Herald Unites the Elves, but that's fine. We have enough other black mana, or we could potentially get that mana off of Jaspera Sentinel or a Galagreeters, so we're not super worried about it. I think we'll be fine mana-wise. Now, this is a bit of a unique spin on elves, but the truth is this is kind of probably how it needs to be built. So you now have ways to draw cards through 3 different things. You can play the long game, which helps. You can also play a bit more of a shorter game because you can go tall with the Monk and the Galagreeters. Or you can just go really wide, right? Where you're talking about playing Rally the Ranks and the Canopy Tactician. So I kind of like what it's doing here, and just having a super big pile of creatures that are trying to get more creatures in your hand also means that you're just going to be more resilient to the sweepers that are out there. And having a haste creature, which we didn't have access to before, should help us close the gap on where some of the shortcomings were in the deck. Now, I will say the other problem is we're not really playing removal cards. Again, we have like a saga that can be removal, and we do have a creature with Death Touch, but that's about as far as it goes. So you're gonna have to keep that in mind as well, but we do have ways to make extra tokens, and that can also just serve as blockers to help us out. So just be aware of what we're working with. But as always, remember to like this video, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and choose all notifications so you don't miss any of these other deck lists that are coming out, because I want you to be ready for Standard when new Capenna drops. But that's all I have for you for now. We'll see you next time.